Hello, my name is John Wargo, and I am the instructor this semester for TE850, Critical Reading of Children's and Young Adult Literature. In this opening module, I'll quickly introduce the course, as well as survey some of the materials, assignments, and themes that will sort of illuminate in our work together this semester. Quickly, though, I'll start with an agenda. I'll introduce myself in the upcoming slides, talk a little bit about 850, overview the syllabus as well as some of the assignments, and then I'll actually close with thinking about the technology and access to WordPress and D2L you'll need in order to be successful this fall. I'll always close out the modules by previewing the next week of class, as well as helping you think through some of the larger themes and ideas that we'll sort of work our way into. So quickly, like you, I was and still am a teacher. Even though I'm a doctoral candidate here at Michigan State, the time I spent in the classroom is something that influences the work I do every day. So I was certified as a K-8 educator, and I originally taught in K-1 and 2 in Denver, Colorado. And while I was out there, I became really fascinated and interested in writing, and in particular writing as a way to sort of approach literature and the teaching of children's and young adult literature in particular. And so I think about my way as a teacher as a foray into introducing who I am as a researcher. So like I said, I'm a docs candidate here at Michigan State University. I'm currently doing my dissertation on digital writing. So I study youth writing in digital spaces. Yep. If you have an interest in understanding how Snapchat, things like Instagram, Twitter, Tumblr, and any of the online environments that you see your own students or children or you yourself use, I sort of examine those areas as ways to understand writer identities, how individuals orchestrate identity through them and visibility, how people civically engage through those mediums. A secondary interest, and one that is sort of inspired this course, is also working with in-service and pre-service teachers in discussing difference through young adult literature. So thinking about how does the baggage you carry as a reader sort of help you or inform you through the lens of reading and reading response. A tertiary interest, I'm really fascinated by humanities and qualitative research methods. So if you ever have an inkling to sort of wanting to start your own teacher action-oriented research, definitely hit me up as I have access and resources, and I'd love to help out in any way I can. But enough about me. Let's sort of hear a little bit about the course. So I actually want to start the introduction to TE850 through a quote. And it was a quote that really guided the way I designed the course, as well as how I hope we can sort of begin to articulate our own interpretations of literature. And it's by Judith Butler, and she says, "Critical does not mean destructive, but only willing to examine what we sometimes presuppose in our way of thinking, and that which gets in the way of making a more livable future." And so critical here isn't to sort of scare you off. We're not going to be reading sort of huge, dense theory, but rather we're going to think about critical as a lens to which we read through. So, in essence, these literary paradoxes of anti-signification, of textuality and the representation of words in the politics of literature, as well as the representation of issues of race, ethnicity, censorship. Basically what we're doing is we're making a mountain out of a molehill, and we're doing so with the help of some of these wonderful texts that we're going to read. So these are actually not all of the books, but I showed you this list right here because we are going to use that book on the bottom, Keywords for Children's Literature, as the primary course text. So we'll look at some of the keywords and historical continuities that are brought up through children's literature, and we'll use them as lenses to examine books like Fantastic Mr. Fox, Brindle, The Giver, contemporary as well as classic children's and young adult texts. Don't worry, picture books are in there too. I just couldn't necessarily get them to show up in the picture. I'll now sort of do a quick overview of the syllabus. I'll go over briefly some of the assignments for the course, and then I'll sort of talk a little bit about how I value participation and discussion in an online course, and obviously sort of talk about the focus on writing, as this is an online course, and writing and textual listening is actually one of the primary ways we participate. So as I zone out here and go to my Word, I'll sort of pull up the syllabus. So as you can sort of see, the syllabus is still in its draft form, but a lot of the course text and required course text are already there. This will go live in an email that I will send out later this week, where I will include all this information. We also have a WordPress site And you can find all that information being kept up to date as well on there. And as you can sort of see, the things I'm still thinking about are some readings. But as you can see, the course is mostly fleshed out as we begin the opening semester here in early August. I also do want to quickly, like I said, show you our course website. It's a WordPress site. And this is where you'll sort of find course assignments. I detail some of the assignments as well as the points allocated. This is where you'll begin your blog and your ETC papers entering the conversation, as well as you can find sort of the course overview and the goals, as well as a PDF version of the syllabus. So as I abstract our way back in, I want to now talk a little bit about the assignments. So there are 4 large assignments in essence that I'd like to talk about today. The first are what I call ETC papers. So ETC, or entering the conversation papers, are actually posts you will do to our WordPress site. And these are just sort of blog posts, nothing more, no more than 600 to 700 words, and it's really just your response to the readings for the week. You'll sort of put in dialogue some of the critical theory as into your own interpretation, as well as analysis of books that we'll sort of talk about. In these, because they're short, I'm going to ask you out of a 15-week course to do 10 of them. So it's not an every week thing, but it's almost an every week thing. They're worth 1 point apiece, equaling 10% of your grades. The second of a large assignment is a reader's creed. So in a reader's creed, I'm going to ask you to develop some sort of philosophy of reading or reading instruction and teaching reading. And we'll do this twice, with the first reader's creed being 15 points, and then sort of do a summative reader's creed where we sort of are going to take all the information we learned in 850 and in essence rewrite our reader's creed. And this will really help, I think, putting in a portfolio or giving this reader's creed to administration or to your district, or just to have and think about the ways in which your own sort of ideology about literature influences the instruction of literature and the teaching of books to your students. And that's going to be worth 30% of the final grade. Critically questioning the text and theory papers will happen twice. So there are 2 papers, each worth 10 points. And these are 3 to 4 page double-spaced papers, very sort of formalist essays in essence, where, again, I'm going to ask you to make an argument about some of the pieces of literature we'll read along with the theory. Don't worry, all assignment sheets will be forthcoming. This is just an overview. The final project, and this is very differentiated by your own interests, by the student, is we're actually going to be doing a keyword final project. Because we use Phil Nell and Lisa Paul's book, Keywords for Children's Literature, in essence, the final project will be developing and designing your own keyword. And the keyword will sort of be around this idea and theme of critical. But it doesn't necessarily have to be an alphabetic print essay as a final project. I had teachers in the past think about ways they can use a unit plan that engages with some of the literature we talked about, and how that is sort of symbolic of a critical and criticalness, and that can serve as a keyword. Others did video essays, included a journal entry for each day, and used that documentation to create their own keyword from that. Really, it can look very, very different based on your own interests, your own needs, as well as the application part. Because 850 is a course, yes, about sort of the interpretation and interpretation of literature, but it's also about the practice and application of teaching literature. In terms of technology, there will be 7 Twitter discussions using the hashtag TE850. I will send out a Google poll indicating what days will work. This does not require you to meet face-to-face. In fact, you can be in front of the TV with iPhone or Android or smartphone or iPad or whatever, and you can still engage in the literary discussion using the hashtag TE850. I've found this to be a really, really great place and way to dialogue, as major education organizations like hashtag IngChat and hashtag Literacies use it to stay in dialogue with one another. All of our secondary readings and resources can be found on our Desire to Learn site, which is going to be included in the syllabus, as well as thinking about, as this is an online course, we're going to have to flex our muscles a little bit and think about new modes of participation. The Twitter discussions are but one of those modes. And as you'll see, if we go back to the assignments, that all of those assignments only equal 90 points. And I do reserve 10 points to really think about participation, because I know it may be odd to be on a receiving end of an online course and sort of begin to think about, well, how is he going to gauge online participation? But, through these Twitter discussions, as well as through, just the writing itself, you begin to understand who is really an active participant, engaging with other classmates, and who isn't. So as we close out, again, this was a drive-by in terms of an overview. I want to sort of preview week 1, which begins on August 27th and closes through August 29th. We're going to read children's literature, which is a keyword in the book Keywords in Children's Literature, and it's only 5 pages, a quick keyword. We're going to then briefly talk about reading that keyword, as well as read one of the chapters in Perry Nodelman and Maris Reimer's The Pleasure of Children's Literature, as well as close out with a blog post. So you can see that this is sort of typical reading. The reading is quite intense. And as one of the assignments do is just a quick bio introducing yourself to the course and to the group. And that is due on our WordPress site by Sunday at September 1st at 10 p.m. So as we close out, again, I just want to say welcome and thank you. And if you have any questions or reservations, to please let me know, as I do want this course to be one in which we all feel validated, productive, and affirmed. I look forward to a great semester, and again, enjoy the end of August.